Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
What's up? What is up? I'm Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talkhouse Podcast. This week I'm joined by
Annie Fell, Associate Editor.
Annie, thanks for taking a minute out of your crazy day to join me here.
Of course, I always love coming.
We have a very, very exciting show today. Kate Nash in conversation with Cherry Glazerr front person Clem Creevy.
The two are old friends and wanted to talk about their new records.
Yeah, Cherry Glazerr just dropped the fantastic record Stuffed and Ready, and Kate is back with the banging new single Trash.
Everything these two artists come out with is always so exciting.
Amen. Now, Kate Nash embodies so much of what I love in a pop star, Annie. She's smart, she's got attitude, she does not take shit, and she constantly reinvents her sound. This is an artist who has really redefined what success looks like for herself. She first struck fame and fortune with her 2007 hit album, Made of Bricks. She won the Brit Award the next year for that, but then had a very serious issue with the major label system. Instead of letting her career be ruined by that, she dissociated herself completely and took to releasing her own fantastic music and really made it a point to follow her own muse, away from the pressures that the industry put on her to model what they thought was going to be popular. It's also been really cool to see her take up other avenues like acting.
Yeah, she had a really great role on Genji Cohen's Netflix show Glow, playing Rhonda Britannica Richardson.
Britannica. Kate's last LP was Yesterday Was Forever. That came out just last year and was her fourth full-length. She just dropped the single Trash, which is a total banger. Let's play a clip of that now. That's good stuff, right?
So good. Now, Kate was a huge inspiration to Clementine. One of the things Clem learned from her older pal was attitude, and as we can hear in the talk, she has that in spades.
She definitely does. Cherry Glazerr gives no fucks.
Clem's actually been playing guitar since age 11 and officially started her music career when she was 15 and would release lo-fi bedroom demos under the name Clem Butt on SoundCloud.
I'm glad she changed the name, Annie. I'm glad she changed the name. By 2013, Cherry Glazerr was a band, and with each of their three records, they have gained more and more fans and notoriety.
This new one, Stuffed and Ready, is confessional, intense, and emotional. Creevy clearly wants her listener to understand what she's feeling, which, as this album demonstrates, is at times fed up, fatigued, and angered.
Funnily enough, Clem's actually done a turn acting as well. She had a recurring role on Transparent as the leader of the band Glitterish.
Let's check out the track Daddy from the new album.
In this talk, Kate and Clem chop it up about a lot. They take in religion, rebellion, trauma, toxic masculinity, growing up in LA, and surprisingly, the Maharaja musical that Kate's writing.
They also talk about the strange empowerment and singing from the perspective of a misogynist.
And we get to hear the surprising story of what inspired Kate's new single, Trash. Should we roll it?
Let's roll it.
Did you grow up religious?
Curveball. I grew up kind of, not like, I'm Irish, my mum's Irish, so there's like Irish Catholic background.
Okay, me
so
too.
I went to church, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I went to church and I did my like Holy Communion and confirmation and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you're confirmed.
I am confirmed.
Yeah, so you're confirmed.
Verified by Christ.
You have the blue
I have the
star
blue-
next to your name, according to
Jesus.
To Jesus, baby, sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah. And I went to Catholic school. But in terms of like my parents, my mum has always had like a healthy relationship with religion in a way. Even I don't feel religious now, but and there's certain things I don't like about having gone to like Catholic school and things that like you get taught in church. I like wish I didn't have to carry with me for the rest of my life.
It's funny. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think most people do.
I'm sure. But then my mum always told us like there was never any of the like really crazy stuff that came with religion. My mum always said to us like what her God was, which is, and I understood this from a young age that like the first thing you get taught about God is that God is omniscient, omnipotent, and benevolent, which is all loving, all knowing. And I feel like pretty spiritual at this point in my life. I'm like open to kind of anything, any idea, and any.
That's awesome.
There's, like,
You seem that way.
Cool, good. That's nice. But my mum was always like, my God is that. So there's not rules that can be written by people. That like God isn't homophobic. Like God isn't these things that people take, that human beings take on.
Right.
So I feel like I'm lucky that I have the parents that I do, because as much as like some of the stuff that came from being in religious environment is negative, I had like a very open, loving household that wasn't super strict and we didn't get like, I mean, we went to church with my mum, but then when we decided we didn't want to go, it wasn't like a big deal, or
That's awesome.
we didn't get forced to do things.
Right.
I feel like
So they were like sane people.
they are sane. And my mum, yeah, they're definitely sane. My
They
mum
seem
is
very sane.
They're sane. What about you?
I didn't really grow up that religious, but I came from an Irish Catholic family, big Irish Catholic family in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
Generations of like Chicagan
so cool.
Irish people, and
Amazing.
my grandma
Happy St.
comes
Patrick's
from
Day.
9. Oh, thanks. Is it today?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh man, if my grandparents listen to this, they're gonna be upset with me that I didn't already know that. Yeah. So my grandparents both come from 9, both very Irish, big family.
Yeah.
Very loving, very supportive, and awesome. My mom was a little sus her whole life of religion,
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah.
and my dad grew up here in LA, and it's like secular Jewish. And yeah, they're both very secular. Like my mom got married to my dad when I was 12, and they raised me here very secular. But I had to go to Catholic school when I was in like 1st and 2nd grade, and also 5th and 6th grade. I moved around a lot with my mom. She was a single mom and like moved me around a lot from city to city. And I have a lot of resentment about having to go to Catholic school because I think it taught me a lot of shame and a lot of like
Guilt.
Guilt. And the guilt is like, whatever, I can deal with the guilt, but the shame is the really bad one. I think that's a specifically Catholic church kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That you should feel shameful, and you're dirty and shameful, and you have to repent for your sins and just all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And my mom actually, a few years ago, disowned herself from the Catholic Church officially. She had to write a letter to the Pope.
Wow.
It's apparently what you have to do.
You have to write a letter to the
You
Pope.
have to write a letter to the Pope.
Does he read it?
That's a great question.
I wonder if he genuinely, it's like Santa. But
You
like,
have to do that. That's what I mean about the whole structure being so
That's crazy.
shameful. And yeah, like,
Dear Pope, I'm out.
yeah, dear Pope, I'm out.
Hope everything's good with you.
Anyways.
That's crazy.
So she disowned herself from the Catholic Church, and
But do you still feel you carry that with you as an adult?
I wish I didn't have so much like weird trauma related to it. I have a not very traumatic life. I feel very grateful and blessed that I don't have a lot of trauma in my life. I had a very easy life. And I think it's cool because I think that I might be able to be happy at some point because of it. And of course, there's the obvious, like, internalized shittiness of just being a femme in the world and all of the shit that you have to go throughout your life because of that.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't have any added shit on top of that.
Yeah.
which I feel like lucky and grateful for. And something I've realized recently that I don't want to co-opt other people's trauma. I've learned that it's not cool to have had trauma. I don't need to co-opt other people's lives and other people's trauma in order to feel cool or validated or regular.
Yeah.
I didn't have trauma in my life. I'm not particularly depressed, and like that's okay.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. But that is a thing with musicians, is that you're not like worthy.
Right.
You're not as interesting an artist, or you can't create without
I had some
real
like
darkness.
complexes with that for sure.
Yeah.
Growing up in like the punk scene and like that being a part of music for sure.
And do you feel like when you were younger, you felt like you needed to try and seem that way, or like it affected you? It just made you feel like you weren't good enough, or...
Yeah, I totally did. I romanticized depression and the depressed artist.
Yeah. It's so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up. I think the thing about it is that has actually killed a lot of musicians in itself. The fact that people just felt like they needed to be that.
Yeah.
I know people that have self-sabotaged themselves to create that.
Right.
And the thing is, like, life is pretty fucking intense. It's really stressful, and bad shit's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to you. Not necessarily like childhood trauma. Like you say, people can go through life having not the worst experiences, but in general, like, you're going to know people that are going to die. There's going to be stress. There's going to be money troubles. There's going to be ups and downs.
All of that today is going to happen to you.
That's going to happen
now.
to everyone. And so you're going to have depression to draw from at some point.
Yeah.
That if you have empathy in any way, or feel and have emotional reactions to things, then you're going to be able to express them. And also, one thing I think I've learned as an artist that is really helpful as a performer as well as a writer is that you don't have to be always feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, I think when I was younger, I felt that too. And I was influenced by people around me that it's like, you have to be kind of like, I don't know, it's like when you're like drunk and you do a show and you're like, yeah, I was really into it. But really, you were not as good as if you were sober and just doing a good show.
Completely.
So it's not actually about you all the time.
Right.
And it's amazing. I love having music and need it to deal with so much of my emotional stuff.
Yeah.
It's a perfect outlet for me. It's not enough, actually. I've also learnt to completely heal from things. Like, it was for 10 years just the only therapy that I had was working and like writing and then touring.
Yeah.
And then as I've grown up, I've realised, that's not how you actually deal with problems. Like, you don't resolve things from doing that.
Right.
You kind of like skip them a little bit.
Right.
But you can also dip into like different parts of your creativity and write from different perspectives. And I've been working on this musical since 2010.
Yeah. That makes me excited.
It's been such a cool experience because I never would have imagined that I could write for some of these storylines or characters. And it taught me a lot that you can tap into different parts of your creativity. It doesn't all have to be about me, and being able to go into these other characters' worlds and write for them is like something that I've got in my toolkit as well.
Yeah.
And most likely a lot of people have, because
that's so cool.
if you just like,
that seems so energizing.
yeah, it's at this point I feel like putting almost myself in situations or different projects or limitations and being like, I'm going to write for this, is really inspiring to me at the moment.
Totally.
Whereas I feel like before I've had these like urges to like explode that needed to come out.
Right.
And now I don't feel like I need that as much. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
That seems like natural, or at least you seem to be honing in on your craft, what your actual craft is.
Yeah.
Honing in on it and expanding it and realizing that there are a lot of assets that you can like dip into.
Yeah. It's like different
and
drawers
do.
that you just like realize are open and they've been like locked or something when you're like, oh, this one opens now. That's cool.
Will you tell me about a character?
In the musical.
Yeah.
So
like, who's your
it's-
favorite character to write for?
Well, this musical is about the Maharaja, who was like the Indian like king who was considered to be a god, basically. Like the way that he was treated was insane. They would hold an umbrella over him to protect the son from his race. Like that's how the Maharaja was treated. And he went to Paris in the 1920s. And it was just so lavish and over the top. I mean, they traveled with like elephants and gold trunks and like insane.
That's so weird. I thought I was the only one who did that.
South by, excuse me. And the story is basically inspired by him, and it has some factual stuff in it, but it's really like focuses on, he has 3 wives in the story. He had multiple wives, but in this story he has 3. And he goes to Paris and he's trying to get his mojo back. He's basically having a midlife crisis. And he is doing everything except what he should be in touch with to actually find himself.
Oh, wow.
So he's like thinking he needs to do all these things. And he has 3 wives and they tell these different stories and they're like so cool. I'm like, am I allowed to fucking talk about it this much?
Yeah, no, don't.
I don't know.
But I love your interpretation of this story.
It's like I like writing from his perspective because I would never ever tap into that.
Right.
Like a middle-aged man who's like a king who has all these like ego trips and like power. There's all this like crazy power stuff going on.
Wow.
And
how does that make you feel?
amazing. It made me understand rappers. I was like, this is why rappers are always like, I'm the fucking shit all the time, because you feel amazing. If you just like rap aggressively about how fucking powerful you are, it's such a trip.
That's so sick.
It's like a weird mentality that living in, I'm sure, is extremely unhealthy. But like experiencing once or twice, I'm like, wow, I get this now. I get why you're just like constantly just like yelling about how fucking amazing you are.
That's so amazing.
I never do that.
Dude, you brought up such a great point about cross-reading. That's what that is like cross-reading. I guess a feminist writer taught me about cross-reading.
Okay.
I think it might be bell hooks.
Cool.
And cross-reading is when women have to do it all the time because most books are written by men about men.
Right.
Or whatever famous books that we read.
Okay.
Classics.
Yeah.
And cross-reading is when you're reading those books. You're cross-reading. Women have to do it constantly. Men have to do it very much less so.
So you put
you're reading the perspective of a man written by a man.
And it's your interpretation
And
of
it's
it.
your interpretation of
That's
it.
so interesting.
And women have to do it constantly with shows, movies,
Everything.
TV, ads, books, everything. And like
History.
Yeah. It's cool because my bandmate, he is a cis man, straight cis man, and he's reading bell hooks right now.
Cool.
About toxic masculinity. And it's just cool to see him cross-reading.
Yeah.
Because it's cool to see, there's so many great women writers that are read by men, and that's that's the shit that happens a lot, especially nowadays with so many awesome writers. But anyways, what you were saying about cross-reading with like that kind of role, it made me think about this Megadeth cover I had to do recently. And it was so cool because Dave Mustaine is writing about how he's going to kill his lady if she doesn't love him back. and he'd rather kill her than not be loved by her. And I love singing from the perspective of misogynists.
Yeah.
I love it because it makes me feel so validated. Like, it makes me feel so good. I'm like, am I allowed to? I'm really saying this. And everyone's going, yeah, cool. Love it. Great. It's like, they don't even think about it. And I'm singing it. We actually sing this LCD Sound System cover. I love LCD Sound System. But there's this one line where he goes, "To think I used to pity you, to think I used to pity you, it's true." And I would never write something like that. I think because of I think a lot of it is an internalized sexism. Where I feel like I wouldn't want to be seen as the kind of woman who is pitying somebody else. I shouldn't put myself on that kind of pedestal. I shouldn't be so cocky.
Right.
Pitying someone else. I don't want to be seen as that cocky.
Right, because you're above someone else.
Right, because you're above someone else
and
if you pity them. Exactly.
Pity is such an interesting word because it's like judgmental kind of.
Yeah.
Too. It's like, I pity you. That's like, okay, wow.
wow.
Thanks.
Yeah,
That'd be
it's
so intense if
wow.
someone felt pity for you.
Yeah. But when I
that's
sing
such a
it,
place
I
of,
can
like-
sometimes feel really powerful. Because I'm
Because you're
like,
above.
whoa, I'm like singing about pitying someone. Like, this shit is crazy right now.
Because also I feel like as women, you're empathizing. You put so much emotion into, I think a lot of women do this, is almost over-emotionally understanding where people's shit comes from. I've done this so much to the point where I've like stayed in terrible relationships because I just understand why they're so fucked up.
Right.
And why they treat me like that. Like they don't understand it, but I do.
Like the oppression has taught you.
I'm like, they're not really a bad person. Like they do love me. They just like are fucked up because of these reasons, and I get that. No.
Yeah.
No. That's not how you should function in relationships at all. Like there's a certain point where I think understanding someone like and over empathizing is dangerous. Has been to me. I've had to like learn how to go, but also if you just are being a dick, then you are a dick. You know?
Right.
Like
there's a cap where it's like not justifiable anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least like, okay.
Or understand it from a distance. Like I don't need to be around that person.
Right,
I can just be like,
you can be empathetic, you can understand where they're coming from,
don't have
but
to
you
pity
also
them.
don't have to take on their
Like that-
shit.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had people in my life too that were very toxic, and it was like, okay, like I feel really bad for you. I'm gonna keep being your friend. I feel like you have like a lot of problems, and I love you, and like I feel for you because I know that you have been traumatized.
Yeah.
But then you reach a certain point where you're like, okay, well, you can understand and empathize with this person, or at least try to understand and feel empathetic towards this person. But you don't have to take that shit on.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's kind of selfish for you to be like, oh, I'm going to just take them on. I'm going to just take this on. It's no big deal. I've got it. It's a little bit like, no, you don't. Like, you know, chill out. You're not that great. You're not, you know, you've got your own fragile problems to deal with.
Well,
like,
that's another thing is I think when I stopped doing that is when I really, all the shit that I've ignored about myself hit me.
Yeah.
And I suddenly was like, oh, okay. So now that I don't have this
Yeah.
other thing to always be worrying about, there's a mirror there.
Totally.
And it's intense to see all my stuff I haven't handled properly too.
That seems to be what happens when you cut toxic people out of your life. I've only had it happen to me like a few times in my life, but I felt the same way where you're just like, holy shit, like this has been taking up 90% of my mind space and now it's gone and like I'm just like naked. It's like weird.
Yeah. I'm so interested in what your teenage life in LA has been like and how that, because I feel like you've had such a transition from your first record and when I first met you to now in a sort of, I don't know, in just like a really unique way that I feel like probably not a lot of people growing up here and what you experienced and everything surrounding your first like album and release and everything and the journey that you've been on to here. I'm just like interested in what that has actually been like for you personally.
Oh, man, growing up here was awesome.
Yeah.
I love LA and I love LA people. I think they're such open-minded, funny, talented, creative people. I love the way they think and the way they sort of live their lives.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends grew up here and like, I don't know, I love the way they see things.
Cool.
It's really an inspiring place to me because of that. I feel like when I was like 17 or 18.
Is that when your first record came out?
My first record came out when I was 16.
You were 16.
And then the second one came out when I was, well, I put out an EP, Papa Crump, my first one when I was 16. When I was 17, Hacksaw Princess came out. And then when I was 18 or 19, Apocalypse came out. And and then when I was 22,
It's so crazy.
the Stuffed and Ready came out.
So cool.
Yeah. So I feel like I don't know. When I was like 18, I was like, my parents really wanted me to go to college.
Yeah.
And I got into college, and they're kind of intellectuals.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, bah, bah, bah. You're going to not go to college. And you're going to do what? You're going to be in a punk rock band? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, okay. Like, if that's really what you want to do, you know, they were very supportive. And like, they come to every show. They buy tickets. They never get on the guest list because they want to support the band.
That's
and like,
so sweet.
they buy tons of merch, and they're like always shooting videos of us playing and like sending me press. And like, they're so, I'm like, I know it happened to me. I know what happened. It happened to me. I did that. Did you hear? I know. It's crazy. I did it. But like, yeah, and it's really, all our parents do that. My bandmates' parents do that too. Cause
Your bandmates are so sweet.
yeah, they're so sweet.
It's really nice.
But like, they're really supportive. I decided when I was like 18, I was like, I'm gonna get really good at guitar. I'm gonna choose one thing to do with my life.
Yeah.
So that I have a purpose in my life.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be getting good at guitar.
That's cool.
And if I do that, everything else will just fall into place.
That's so
just
cool.
trust myself and not beat myself up and get good at guitar. And like, having
like
that
really
one
some good rules that people should just get taught at school. Like, that's all you need.
It's totally all you need. I realized that there's a whole world of love and life and opportunity in just that one thing. And I feel good that I chose something, because I was at a point where I was like, I should learn a million instruments. Like, I should, you know, do other stuff. And it was like, but then I feel like I would be directionless. And I'm glad I stuck with the one thing, because I can only handle one thing to do.
Yeah.
There's got to be only one thing, or else I don't do any of it.
Right. I'm kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
I need like 15,000 things on my plate to be able to function. If I have one thing, I don't know how to like have
You're just
I need a deadline and pressure and like too much stuff on my plate. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then when there's like one thing to do, I just like have too much headspace or something. And I just get very like freaked out.
It is intense.
But I really admire that.
It's intense to have just one thing, because your whole life rides on it.
Yeah.
I know that if I like lost a finger or whatever.
You'd figure it out.
Maybe.
You would. There's people that play guitar with like one finger. You would just be like, now I need to get really good at guitar with one finger. And that's what you would do.
Yeah, I know. It's my biggest fear. I wake
People
up
play
and I'm
with
just
their
like,
toes. You're always like, oh, they're still here.
It's given me a purpose
Cool.
in life, is to just have like one thing, like guitar is life is guitar.
I love
and
that.
then that's it.
Yeah. And that sort of pulled you through, do you think? Like everything, because it's like one focus to have through
exactly.
every
It's
all
pulled
this
me
other
through.
mad
That's
stuff.
how I got through my teenage years.
Being a teenager with all this.
As I had like this focus and
Yeah.
this love. I decided that.
Yeah.
Because of course, naturally, as like a 20-year-old kid in LA, you want to be doing a million things, and there's so much cool stuff to do, and like so many creative things you can do. I love LA because it's such a creatively open atmosphere.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and there's so many cool people and artists, and it's like you could be doing all this stuff, and I wanted to dabble, but then I'd be like, well, then I would just be dabbling in a bunch of shit, and I wouldn't have one like goal.
Yeah.
So I feel grateful for the guitar.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Tell me about Trash, your song.
Okay. So,
I love it.
thank you.
It's so good.
I got asked to do an exhibition by one of my boyfriend's friends, this girl, Athena Paddington. She's a makeup artist and beauty editor. She put on this exhibition called Trash about single-use plastic. She's like mad on the environment. She's mad on it.
What a badass. That's really cool.
It's really cool. And
It's an important person to have.
Definitely. And I hadn't met her yet. And my boyfriend was like collecting stuff for it. And then she just texted
He was
him.
collecting stuff?
Oh, I didn't explain the exhibition, so that just sounded really weird.
No, it's okay. It's just funny to think about some man collecting trash.
That's what he was doing, because the exhibition
That's
was
awesome.
all these different artists got told a specific amount of time you had to collect your single-use plastic for.
Okay.
And so she just said, oh, Kate should do it as well. We hadn't met. And there's like some people where you just have a feeling that you're going to connect with them. And I was like, just give me her number because I'm going to text her. And I texted her. And it was one of those texts where like I wasn't playing it cool at all. I just like fully went in as myself. And was like, this is what I'm thinking about this and blah. And then she responded in the exact same way. And I was like, great, we make sense. And we just like met up and talked for like 3 hours and just really hit it off. So I got 2 weeks to collect single-use plastic. And then you had to make something out of it for this art exhibition, which I'm not an arts person in that way at all. Like it would just be like a bunch of plastic glued together and nothing. It would just, I wouldn't know what to do. And I just got my wisdom teeth out. So I had 2 weeks off, which I never have. And I also just got my records delivered to me. So I was collecting all the plastic off the covers of the records. And it was just like building up. I was staying at this Airbnb in London. And I was just like on the sofa every day, just like collecting plastic. Like, it's just fucked up.
Like a time lapse.
Yeah. Just That's the noise of a time lapse, everyone, by the way.
Those things are so weird.
Yeah.
I just did a really weird interaction.
I love that.
Reenactment of a time lapse. It's bizarre.
So I became hyper aware of it and I had time off. So it was perfect to just, this is typical of my nature of just like, I went fully into this new project. I had 2 weeks to rest with my wisdom teeth out and I was like, cool, I'm going to like, I was talking to some guy in Salt Lake City who's making this like sustainable record out of like, he's like, don't show anyone this. And I was like, first of all, no one's going to care. Like, I won't, but I think you're a little like in it right now because I don't think this is going to go viral. Like, first of all, records are really niche. Second of all, sustainable records are like, no one gives a fuck. But I
It
do.
is a small category of folks who are passionate about that.
Yeah.
I am too. That's cool as hell.
It's really cool, but it's not the kind of thing that's going to like
That's
blow
us.
up.
Yeah.
I respect how much you wanted to protect it though.
You gotta love passion. In all its forms.
So I decided I wanted to make a record, if I could, out of the plastic that I was collecting from my music. So I make music from trash from music.
Yeah. So awesome.
I got booked a recording session with my friend and I was like, I'm just going to write a song. And it was really easy to write because I just had to do it for the thing. So I booked, like I was living next to this rehearsal studio and I just went over there and I booked myself 2 hours and like
2 hours? You recorded that song in 2 hours?
No, I didn't. But I recorded a bunch of me on the bass singing. And then in the last like 20 seconds, I like got the song. Nice. Like I got the chorus and I was like, oh, that's the song. Nice. And so then I went to my friend's studio and we recorded it properly. And like, it was just like really easy because I was so determined that I needed the song for the record.
Yeah.
Like that's a really helpful thing for my brain. It is like pressure and a deadline. Like it doesn't have to be a bad pressure, but just something that's like, oh, you need to make a song so that you can make this art for this project.
Right.
Cool, great. I can easily do that. When there's
that.
just open space, it's like all a bit much.
Totally.
So I wanted the song to be like this idea that, like the opening lyrics are like, hey, are you up? Are you sitting down? I've got bad news. Have you got like someone you can talk to? And it's kind of like, oh, we've fucked the planet. Like that's the news. It's like, we're all going to die. Like, it sucks, but.
It's so good. It's so good.
And then I always like to turn everything into kind of like a love song too. So it feels relatable to anyone. I think about that all the time. And like impure toxic devotion runs through me like a river to a plastic ocean is something I feel about my attraction to toxicity and everything we were just talking about, where I like take on other people's things. And it's like this weird thing that I've had for so many years where I'm like, I know that I'm swimming in this trash.
Yeah.
And trash for you is ultimately I end up turning myself into trash for that person, you know? Because same, it's like if someone's treating me like a dick and I'm just accepting that, then like what I realized when I finally had to turn the mirror on myself was like, I don't value myself. Because if I did, I wouldn't be desiring these people. If I wouldn't be like so,
of course,
you know? And it's like a weird thing to admit. It's a really scary
It
thing to
is,
admit.
yeah.
Because you kind of, I talk about insecurities and like, I think also when you're doing interviews all the time and you like take on, which I'm sure you have as well, because so many like young people are looking up to you or peers are looking up to you, and like you have this voice for this responsibility and what you want to put out and what you want to stand for and what you believe in and your honesty and stuff. But then your true shit with yourself is not always, I feel like I'm being truthful in those moments, but I'm not really like going deep in to be like I would never have thought I was someone that didn't value myself.
Right.
I feel like I'm fairly confident and like I believe that I should be valued and those things. So to suddenly be like, oh, I don't. It's like quite scary. Like I didn't realize that I was doing that. I didn't realize that was kind of self-harm in some way and that I like clearly don't have respect for myself because it was sad to realize, you know? And so I had
so
to...
like incredible though that you can be that self-effacing and like really accept that as a reality.
Yeah. It was harsh.
Yeah.
It came at this weird moment where I felt like I had this... the weirdest time in my life where I like have never been so, there was like a right turn and a left turn and I knew I was turning right and like saying goodbye to that left turn and that it was like the end of a cycle and it happened like I turned 30 and then I did this summer tour where I did a 10-year reunion tour of my first album. So I played all these songs for the whole summer that I wrote when I was 16 and it was this weird moment of having to like completely accept myself and heal myself from shit that I experienced from the media bullying me or like what people thought of me and like you know when you like turn on yourself and you're like I need to rebel because you have this too I'm sure because if you start writing songs at like 14 15 16 and you carry on when you're in your 20s you're like kind of rebelling against that 16-year-old and through your 20s you're like almost shedding your teen self and then when you hit your 30s you kind of look back and you're like, okay, who am I now? Because I've been trying to like push away from these different identities and find who I am. And I think a lot of people end up going back to some of their like original ideals. And there was a lot for me actually in this teenage person who was so sure of themselves. Because when you're a teenager, you're like, this is who I fucking am. And I am like everything is about your identity and like wearing your identity on yourself and like your makeup, like every single part of you is who you are.
So true.
And then 20s, it's like, oh, that was so stupid. And like, I'm now an adult. And then you're not an adult at all. And then 30, you're like, oh, my fucking teenage self like knew who the fuck she was. How? How did you know that?
Yeah.
And I think like, it was so healing. It was the most open tour ever. And I'd gone through so much shit in the music industry where I hit points where I felt like you need to give up, but you also know you're never gonna. So this is just like really intense.
Right.
Because it's like kind of killing me, but like I have to keep making music, but why? It's not working. It's so hard. Like everyone's fucking you over. You're too naive. You don't know how to be in business. You don't know how to make money in any other way. What the fuck are you? You're like this, like, I don't know how I got to points where I like didn't know how to be an adult. I felt like worthless because if your music's not working out, then you've like, it's like what you said, if you like completely dedicate yourself to that and then that doesn't work out, you don't know what to do. You're like, well, I guess I just get a job in a cafe because I feel like I don't know how people have careers or anything else because mine's so specific and niche. Yeah, and I'd also felt like you need to stop being so naive and like shut down, like you're getting in trouble from being too open. And then when I went on that tour and the whole audience was like so open with me, like I felt like their hearts were like just beating and open. Wow. And it was so beautiful and it like validated for me that I was like that because I was receiving it. I like if you give that out, you can receive it.
Yeah.
And so although you can put yourself in danger and have negative experiences from it, I was like glad that I didn't shut it down and glad that I didn't change. And I couldn't have really, even if I wanted to, because I think like who your core is as a person is going to stay the same. But many facets of you will change, but you're like who you are is like going to be there. Like that's your spine.
Yeah, I also don't think we change all that much.
Yeah.
Like, I think we just kind of are who we are.
Yeah. Like you can learn stuff.
Yeah.
And evolve and have different ideas and experiences. But yeah, I think that too.
You're so real and self-reflective. It's a really admirable thing.
Thanks. I think like that's music though as well, is that if you write lyrics, you probably are drawn to doing that because you're kind of always singing back. You're like singing, when you're on tour, you're singing what you think every night.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like there are parts on Stuffed and Ready where I was like, oh shit, am I really gonna like record this?
Yeah.
Like this is a little much.
Like you're most vulnerable.
Yeah, like
stuff.
so vulnerable and like, I don't know, I started practicing certain mantras in my mind that really helped me with this record where I was like, trust yourself and don't beat yourself up. And those were really important lessons to me. And in that I ended up writing stuff that was like very plain and direct. And like, I felt like in years past when I was younger, you want to prove to yourself and to others that you're smart and capable. That you're this poet.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't have to use big words and metaphors that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
I don't need to bullshit.
Yeah.
I'd rather just see what happens when I tell people that I don't want people to know how much time I spend alone.
Yeah.
And then that's just the song. Like, it's bleak.
Yeah.
But whatever. And it's like the simplest thing ever, but I don't know. It felt good to write that stuff at the time because I think I got to a point where I was like, all right, like, there's no reason to need to prove yourself to anyone because we're all trying to do that. We're all just shooting in the dark and hoping that we're like sounding smart and capable because it's like a survival tactic as human beings. That's what we want, to survive.
And to be comfortable.
Yeah, and be comfortable.
I think if you take away that invisible framework as well that doesn't really exist but we put in for whatever reasons, like who are our idols or who do we respect in the industry or what has the industry told us about ourselves, then like that kind of has to move out of the way before you can get in touch with something. And I think there's this, I still get it now when I wrote a song the other day and I was like, is this cheesy? I don't know. I don't know how to gauge that. I just like, I can't tell.
Yeah.
And then I had to be like, well, it's honest and it's literally like same kind of thing. Like I'm talking about real stuff. Like I'm not like inventing things. This really happened. I'm telling a story. And so trusting that is important because if you have truth in your words, then people are going to relate to them in some way.
Right.
And I think there's no way of knowing. Is this cheesy? Maybe. Oh, well, it's true. So.
And also easier
cool.
said than done, like trusting yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Easier said than done.
Way easier said than done.
Yeah, it's super easy. I do it. Kate does it. We all do it. It's super easy. Just trust yourself. Jesus Christ. Just do it already.
What do you feel is the most like vulnerable part of, I mean, other than lyrics and stuff, when do you feel the most vulnerable as an artist? What's like the hardest part of your
that's a great
journey?
question. When I feel most vulnerable.
Like when you are like, when is it the hardest to trust yourself?
I suppose when I'm recording vocals. Because like it's the most important part of the song. And you are putting it down permanently.
Yeah. Commitment.
It's a major commitment.
Yeah.
I don't feel vulnerable playing live. I don't even really get very nervous because I try to see the nervousness I have as excitement for the show. And I go so bananas on stage that I'm kind of like in a zone. And we practice so much that it's like you just enter this zone where you just want to create this like open atmosphere for yourself and for the folks coming to the show. And I like to see every venue as like the office. I'm going into the office and I
a
like
good
to
way.
enter it and be like, so this is the office for today, huh? Okay, you know? Yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe even during stuff like this,
Yeah.
where like you have to describe yourself or, I don't know, do something that is supposed to be like a definition of yourself. I think we're living in a time where everybody's trying to define themselves. I am this way. I would never do this. I will never do that. I always do this. I always do that. I'm this way. I'm that way.
Yeah.
I'm a Capricorn. Blah, blah, blah.
Are you a Capricorn?
No, I'm a Sagittarius.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And like, that seems kind of hard and scary because we don't know anything about ourselves. And like, if we're trying to define ourselves, then it just seems sort of self-defeating because you're going to want different. No, you're never going to have the thing.
Yeah.
You're never going to be doing one thing forever.
And you're not going to be able to capture it in like a description or an interview or a photo or like whatever.
Yeah.
You can't.
Every person is unique and is supposed to be that way.
And that's why you keep making records. Like if you could do that, you would just write a record and put the pen down and be like, I did it.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to kind
Yeah.
of say or explore. Like I think that the drive to continue to write songs for me is always like,
Right.
I don't
Because
know.
if you've got it all figured out, then there's nothing
Probably
to
just
like
move on.
feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel similarly about writing where it's like such an outlet for me. Like I write when I am feeling overwhelmed
yeah.
a lot of the times. And a lot of my songs come out of feeling really overwhelmed with like my life and just being a person. And like not knowing what my future is going to be.
You're like,
So I feel okay now. I was feeling kind of stressed of like last year. We weren't really on the road and we recorded 2 albums because I
Yeah.
wasn't happy with the first one. So we
Oh,
did
wow.
another one.
I want to hear the first one.
Yeah, it's good. It's not as good as the other one. But
The new album is so good.
thanks.
It is. It's so good. I've been listening to all of your music like leading up to this, and it's like so cool listening to like your first record. And I love that you played Teenage Girl and Grilled Cheese and stuff at the show. And it's funny like seeing that journey of you. I was so happy that you asked me to do this because I feel like I've known you since I lived here.
Yeah.
And it's like because you were so young then,
Yeah.
it is really like, I mean, when you're 16, you just look like a kid, and now you're 22. It's like it's not a different person because it's still you, but it's like such an interesting transition that I feel like I've seen in you, and even just like the comfort in yourself and like how open you are and stuff. Because when you're a teenager, it's different.
Yeah.
And like the band has gone through so much, and it's just really an amazing journey. And I feel like I feel like I don't know you well enough to be like, I'm proud of you. And that can sound really patronizing because like I'm not your mom or something, but I am like proud of you.
I feel the same way with you.
It's weird to like have
when
that
we
feeling.
met, I remember going to your house and it was like one summer afternoon and it was like Sophia, Kelsey, you, and you were doing Girl Gang. Which was the coolest thing ever.
Aw.
And I was so obsessed with how cool that was. And like have such a love for it now too.
Aw.
And like I'm so glad that it existed. But I just remember we went on a pool hunt. We tried to find a pool around the city
I
that we
remember
could
that.
crash. And you were like we were all like getting in someone's car. I think it was my car.
Yeah.
And we were like
This
driving around trying to find a pool.
was
which
like
is
Sophia leaving or something.
yeah,
I
it
feel
was
like
Sophia was going to
leaving.
college or something.
Yeah, I think she was going to New York, and we were trying to find a pool.
We were trying to find a
really
pool.
unsuccessful.
Yeah, it was unsuccessful. Like, and like, I don't know. It was so cool. It was so much fun. And you were wearing like 6-inch platform heels and like a mini skirt and like a pink shirt and like a pink bow in your hair. And we somehow got into this like apartment complex.
Yeah, and on Rowena.
Yeah, in Silver
and
Lake.
and that guy was like really aggressive towards us.
And like whatever, we got to the pool and we were gonna like go in the pool and he was like, some grumpy old man came out and was like, you can't be in this pool or whatever. And you were just like this like tower in your heels and your miniskirt. And you're just like, why the fuck not? What? Fuck you. And I was just 16 and I was just like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Just like, this woman is like so fucking cool. She's just like in 6-inch platform heels and a miniskirt yelling at this guy because of his stupid ass rules.
But he made a weird comment that was rapey, and that's why I got so angry. I feel like he made a weird like rape threat to us. Like it was like, get out of here, or I don't know what's going to happen or something. And I was like, what the fuck? Like this is a bunch of like 16-year-olds. Like you can't like pretend, like threaten to rape. And there was like kids in the pool. I mean, it was weird.
It was badass though. You were just like, you're so stupid and your rules are arbitrary. And it was so true. It was the coolest thing that had ever happened to me. And I was just like, wow, this person is fucking rad.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I'll never forget, like, you just standing there just being like, fuck you! And I'm just like, this is so awesome! It was the height of my teenage years. Yeah, the height of the summer.
Oh my God. I like your impression of me as well.
Fuck you! I made you way more like East London.
Yeah, like cartoon.
Yeah.
British. Fuck you, mate.
Fuck you.
Oh my God.
Cool. I feel like we just had a great conversation.
That was awesome. Do you want to have any final words?
Final words.
Like Jerry Springer, final moment, final thought?
Keep on keeping on. Don't forget that people are always going to be there when you're forgetting, and stop, and don't ever stop.
That's a good
So my
final
mom
thought.
always said.
I'm trying to think what my final thought would be.
Yeah, what's your final thought?
I think maybe because we have both been through that like teenage thing of putting stuff out really early on. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about your journey with that and just continuing to see where that will go. And when you're, it's just cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I feel really lucky to be in this position. When I was like 5 years old, I would imagine singing to stadiums of people.
Sick.
And that's still kind of my dream.
Yeah.
So I just feel really lucky, and the record has been getting a lot of hype, which I wasn't expecting. I try not to expect anything, like, because I'm scared that the whole thing will collapse.
Yeah.
I'll either like get rich and like play
Or die
stadiums
trying.
or die trying. No, or I'll become like a single old lady with a dog and a pickup truck and a guitar playing like bars around Nevada.
Yeah.
Either or. I'll be like Metallica, or I'll be like some crazy old lady in a shack in Nevada with my dog and my acoustic.
I feel,
Either are fine.
who knows, because you might end up being like a cyborg version of yourself. that
Exactly.
does both at the
If
same
it's up
time.
to Zuckerberg. then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful that you asked me to do
I'm so
this.
grateful that you came and did this.
Yeah.
I really loved talking to you.
Me too.
Annie, 2019 is out of the gate with a fucking bang on awesome records. Cherry Glazerr and Kate Nash, right there with the best of them.
Feels like a good omen for the rest of the year.
Listeners, both artists are hitting the road soon, so if you're listening anywhere in the US or Europe, make sure to check out those upcoming tour dates.
We've got some great behind-the-scenes pictures, so be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook to check those out.
Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. We have some awesome shows coming up, including Karen O with Sam Spiegel and Tim Heidecker with Hayden Pedigo. Today's conversation was recorded at Clem's house in LA by Ali Nikou and by our producer, Mark Yoshizumi at Hook and Fade in Brooklyn.
And our gorgeous theme song was composed and performed by The Range. Until next week, I'm Annie Fell.
And I'm Elia Einhorn, here to say, Dear Pope, I'm out.
Bye.
Peace.